Welcome to Hospitality Meets CRM. I'm Bruno Horta Soares. I'm a professor and advisor in the digital transformation areas, in particular for the hospitality sector.
And I'm Diogo Rebelo. I manage the HubSpot CRM practice at Find More Solutions. Booking is the first moment in hospitality. It sets the tone. But it's a multi-touch process with a combination of devices, touch points, and expectation.
In today's episode, we'll talk about omni-channel booking and beyond, the future of guest interactions. I once stayed in a hotel, and the sense was I was asking for a mortgage. So many papers, so many tasks, so many moments that I was asked to fulfill that I feel like this is not an experience. That's when I started to discover this program, this idea of the frictionless fulfillment, which means that the sense that you actually do the things, but you don't feel you are doing the things. You are working in a fluid way. Is that a part of the experience where a CRM, and in particular HubSpot, can fulfill and can support?
I agree, because the point here is for you to give customers a frictional experience, you need sometimes to be collecting the information step by step. You don't need to do a full approach. You can have progressive collection of data. But the most important thing is we need a place to centralize data that is coming from multiple systems. And that's a common issue in hospitality, that companies run systems for service, for reservations, for everything. So, and they are most of the time disjointed. And I think it's the reason, because of this disconnection, that ends up creating this harder experience for the customers.
Sometimes companies ask or sense the sense is that this is about speed and try to do things very quickly. And by doing it quickly, sometimes they jump from areas, as you mentioned, they miss moments of touch and moments of data. Frictionless is not about speeding up without collecting data. It's about doing the same things, but without this friction, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. Because the point is, it's much easier to ask a question every so often and get all the data or all the information you need. And as well as if you have a proper system in place, there is some data that you don't have to ask again. So if the customer if a customer goes the first time to a hotel, you might have to ask him questions because you need to know his preferences. But if you start storing that data, the second time the customer goes there, it's pointless. And that's when it's frustrating, when you return to a hotel and they ask you, oh, do you like this? And you have to ask and reply and give the same feedback again and again and again. It's like didn't you get it last time?
Because sometimes we just want to make a question, we just want to ask for something, we just want to correct some information. How a CRM tool can stop these barriers of everyone waits in the same line to do different things? How can the solution adapt to the need in each part of the process?
I think it's about the omni-channel we are talking. Is not just creating, for instance, the desk, the concierge desk or the reservation desk as a single point of contact. Like the mobile could be playing a role. Like we are usually on the move when we go to a hotel. So sometimes we are, most of the times, on a taxi. So why isn't that data started to be collected on a different channel, and even understanding what the customer is going through, their journey that is actually a journey in a taxi? Everyone will have to do it. Everyone has to move to a hotel. Why don't do things incrementally, and using different channels?
But back in time, CRM was associated to a back office tool. So one thing was the interaction tools, the human factor in the face of the client, and then there was a CRM behind doing stuff in the back end. Today, CRM is touching immediately the customer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like I always think that it's like it's an element to store data that then allows organizations to orchestrate journeys and optimize journeys, but you need to have the data somewhere. And then once we have the data there, it's much easier to kind of try to understand patterns and try to serve the customers in a better way, After finishing a booking process, you finally reach the hotel. And unfortunately, it happened to all of us arriving to the hotel. Someone doesn't find your reservation. And it's quite messy, because even sometimes you start the process in a website interaction, then you receive emails, and like the information seems to be a bit loose, and the hotels and the organization sometimes don't have this centralized place to kind of have this multi-channel orchestration of communication with customers. So when I arrive, they could see in a single view all the interactions I had on the website, by WhatsApp, by SMS, by email, in my profile view.
Okay. But do you think the fact that the OTRs start too early in the connection with the client, they collect a lot of information, but that information is not delivered afterwards to the...
But that's the business of OTAs. See, the OTAs can't give the data of the customers to the hotel owners because that's their business. They what they do is driving bookings and reservations. So they try to control the experience. So that's, I think, one of the main challenges of hospitality at the moment is exactly that dependency of OTAs. The fact that they can't control the data owned by OTAs. OTAs, when they give the data to hospitality, is anonymized. So they create you a bridge for you to communicate via email to the customer. But again, they are defending their space, and I think it's up to the hotels to kind of start stepping in, getting to know the customers, so providing them direct and better experiences that will help them stopping having that dependency from OTAs and serving customers even better.
Yeah. When I talk with organizations, sometimes there's this feeling of my systems, my data, their data. And one of the use cases that is more important in this area is not the centralization of everything in one single platform, but more the word of orchestration. Yeah. You need to ensure that, of course, things are fragmented. There are different organizations, there are different processes, different steps. But the fact that you can have a single view, you can orchestrate all these interaction. How the CRM in a hotel, for example, the fact that the hotel have an upside CRM, how these can orchestrate all these interaction and with all these systems?
It's because it's an aggregator. Let's put it this way: the same way when we think about multi-channel, we are connecting different channels like WhatsApp, again, text messaging, email. App interactions. The idea is that we are plugging all the data to create this consolidated view of the customer. So you can understand, like almost in a timeline view, all the different interactions. That is actually easier to understand what everything that the customer actually went through from almost like a chronological point of view. And and I think that's the most important thing. I always say to our customers is, if we don't have the data consolidated and well organized in a platform, not only you can't take good decisions, as it's almost impossible for you to serve well a customer, and I think that's the way. And so we usually find ourselves joining lots of different systems. In hospitality, you have restaurant booking systems, you have spa systems, golf systems, if your hotel has a golf, and all this information is scattered. So like there is not a centralized point of view that can serve lots of purposes. It's not only the experience of the customer, but even for the hospitality business itself, it opens lots of upselling opportunities. So
So it's clear that sometimes companies look for one single tool, but it's impossible to have the same tool supporting so different processes. As you mentioned, what you have to have a single vision is about the data.
Yeah.
So the
CRM, you can
Yeah,
orchestrate.
yeah.
It's like an orchestra.
Okay.
So you have the lads that do the violin, and that's the spa booking system. You have the guitar players that are another service you provide, and that's true. That's normal. Even if you see the servicing of the rooms, of course, they need to be supported by different applications. What you want in the end is you need to centralize the information about the customer to help you serving the experience and all the communication to the customer.
So in some way, we always thinking about this information cycle, the fact that you have data, you turn data in information, you turn information in knowledge, but at the end, you want to create value with that data. The fact that you collect a lot of information to the central point, don't you feel that sometimes you have this sense of you have so many information that you collect, but you don't know what to do with that information?
That would be a good problem. I think the problem is the if you have the all that data collected in a place that you can work it out, then if you don't, it's your own problem, you know. But I think the problem that I see often is that doesn't exist, you know. So if we think from a journey perspective of a customer in the hospitality industry, that there's the before, there's the during, and there's the after. And during this entire journey, there are so many interactions between the customers and the organization, the hospitality business, and the before is all the booking process that we were talking about, all those, you know, multi-channel interactions. But then when you are during the stay, there are other touch points. And if we collect those touch points, or if we want to measure, or when we leave the hotel, if we are doing surveys to understand customer satisfaction, like, more we know, more we can improve, and that's exactly the point. So if you listen, if you are recording feedback from customers and you are not doing anything about it, then you are stupid, you know.
Because sometimes I think we are still stuck in the sense that every data you want to collect, you want to transform it or organize it in information. But if we think in a use case about automated data intelligence, what you are saying is how much it doesn't care what type of data you collect, because probably you will use AI to transform that data immediately to intelligence, not necessarily to ask the question, oh, should I organize it like this, organize it like that? Is that the reason that the CRM will collect not all the data, but some of the intelligence will come from unstructured data and all these sensors that you, as you're saying, put across the journey?
I think the AI element, I think AI works with data. Like, if we don't give data to AI won't be much helpful, you know. So I think the element of having structured and unstructured data makes AI more efficient. But as AI or any interaction that you want to do with your customers, you need to know what you want to do or what you're doing. So again, if I have more data available, I can be way smarter, more creative in the way that I'm interacting with the customer. Imagine that we capture, imagine if we have a mobile app or an access card system in the hotel that gives the guests access to a bar, as we are giving those access, we can learn about where the customer is going, you know, and that information could be highly valued. You could know that if a customer is leaving the hotel, or if you have, you know, ways of capturing that data, means you could act on those moments to do real-time communications and be smarter. If you don't collect that, you can't. And I think HubSpot, for instance, as a platform, is brilliant about that, because we can capture. I usually say that there are two elements in HubSpot CRM. We have the transactional data. You know, transactional data is the reservations you do, the surveys you answer. But then there is event data, and event data is Diogo clicked on email, Diogo went to the bar, Diogo went to bed. No, went to bed is great. But anyway, but if I capture those events, then I can trigger something on that event. But if I don't capture, there's nothing I can do about it.
And again, we are talking about creating value, because you just mentioned you can give improvements just in operational level. There's no reaction. You can collect customer data, not creating value to the customer, just to operation of the hotel. But you also mentioned that you can directly create more revenue, more value to the client. But there's also a concern that sometimes I have, that is the fact that you are almost playing with data from a person. And we know that from a compliance perspective, if everyone is collecting data and doing funny things, as you mentioned, probably they cannot control what they are doing. Is the fact that you centralize all the data and have some tasks automated, also in terms of compliance with rules and laws, this approach is better than just doing things separately in different platforms?
I think if the purpose is to serve better the customer, I don't think, I'm not a compliance expert, so just a note here. I might be some talking rubbish, but I think if I'm collecting data to serve better my customers, if I'm a customer, and I know, we are geeks and we understand how things work, and sometimes I know perfectly I'm giving information, but you're giving that back, to get something back, and to have a personalized service. That's what you want. You don't want someone giving you 20 options. You want someone giving you 1 or 2 options. Like make customers' decisions much simpler and more effective, and that's what you want. You want to be surprised, and even that surprise is fabricated, by a platform is still much better than what's your name?
That's why centralizing data is so important, because don't you feel a little bit strange when you give some information, some data to an hotel, and they are entering in an Excel file or entering in a paper? Immediately you lose trust with that organization. You don't know where my data is going to be uploaded or sent away. So the fact that everything is centralized and you can orchestrate and you have a single point of view of the customer probably will solve lots of trust issues.
Yeah. No, yesterday I landed here in Lisbon after this massive power outage, and I had that experience when the power was being restored later in the day. I was checking in my hotel, and the payments couldn't be processed. And I wasn't comfortable at all when I had to give my card for a manual process, a manual payment. And, possibly before, I remember having the Visa cards that, and we were all okay with that. But now you're not. Exactly what you're saying. Like they have my credit card details. I know that I still have to approve transactions that are not done. But yeah, you're right. This is something that organizations need to pay attention.
So we can conclude that Omni-Channel is not about technology, is not about only speed, is not about only centralization, is about being more relevant and do things with more intelligence. That means with more data that you can create value, right?
Yeah, I think it's the Omni-Channel. I see Omni-Channel is like creating more senses for the organizations to capture data. You are opening more feeds, So if I'm opening more channels and I'm concentrating, I'm collecting more data. And again, the principle is always get the data. Once I have the data, I can work it and use it for all the purposes. It can be used for marketing purposes. It can be used for sales processes. It could be used for services processes. It can be used for anything, again, but you need it.
I always tell my students that you have to memorize sense, compute, actuate, and do it all in cycles. Sense, compute, and actuate. And that's the sense that probably CRM is the perfect tool to compute and actuate. You still have to censor in different tools and different moments of the process, but if you centralize the compute and actuate, probably you will have more intelligence and you create more value.
Yeah, and again, I'm saying the same thing again and again and again. If we give customers the data, then you're giving the capabilities to the decision makers to be smart. Like if everything is going into the correct place, if I have lots of available data, if I'm a marketing director in a hospitality group or a sales director, if I see all these data, I can actually understand better my customers, and I can be smart about what you do and more creative, and you can start testing, and it's another thing, you're able to interact and measure. And that's always the point. No one knows the best recipe in the world. You need to keep trying and learning and capturing data and be better and better and better.
I think we'll repeat this word of experience a lot during these episodes, but definitely it's not about technology. It's about experience.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.